half of U.S. adults favor stricter laws, and political reform of firearm policy in America remains at a standstill. In the wake of the latest mass shooting in the U.S., TRT World Sarah Firth takes a closer look at what has been called an epidemic of gun violence.
Columbine, Parkland, Sandy Hook, and now Oxford, Michigan. Images of the aftermath of school shootings in America have become all too familiar. While many Americans fiercely defend their Second Amendment right to carry weapons, a new generation has been demanding stricter gun control laws.
We are here fighting for what we already know, which is our right to not be shot.
As gun sales in America surge, a growing number of school children are paying with their lives.
The guns are there. There's no evidence that American school students are any more unhappy or more homicidal than kids anywhere else. The obvious difference is access to guns.
According to independent global research firm Small Arms Survey, there are 120 guns for every 100 Americans. Researchers estimate that Americans own almost half of the world's firearms. The US is the only developed country where mass shootings have happened every single year for the past 20 years.
When we try to compare American gun policy worldwide, the examples we usually end up with are like Somalia and Yemen, countries where you don't have a functional government. And in a sense, that's what the American people have chosen. When it comes to guns, they don't want a functional government. So you don't have national policy.
There have been 652 mass shootings this year alone in the US, 20 of those school shootings in the past 4 months. As another community grieves in Michigan, this incident is likely to fuel political debate over gun control policies in the US. The Biden administration has called on Congress to take action on gun control, but with lawmakers unlikely to pass any significant reforms and with a surge in gun sales over the last year, there seems little hope right now of curbing what's been called a
coming to you now, stand by.
Epidemic. Sarah Firth, TRT World, Washington.
All right, let's get some insight now from John Lott, who is the founder of the Crime Prevention Research Center. John, it's good to speak to you and have you on the show. Now, your position is that you're against restrictions on owning and carrying guns. I know that the firearm that was used in Michigan was a 9mm pistol, but do you feel that restrictions on some types of weapons would help prevent mass shooting without infringing on the Second Amendment?
Well, look, there's one common feature with the attack in Michigan, as well as all the other ones that you mentioned, and that is they keep on occurring in places where teachers and staff aren't allowed to go and carry guns. There are 20 states in the United States that allow teachers and staff to carry guns. We put out, the Crime Prevention Research Center looked at all gun firings in all schools in the United States from 2000 through 2018. Every single attack occurred in those places where teachers and staff weren't allowed to carry. If you have one armed guard like you had in the school there, who's in uniform, they have an almost impossible task. If you have an attack that occurs there and the person's in uniform, the attacker will either go after that one guard first, or they'll wait till they leave before they do the attack. But I have to take issue with some of the numbers that you're just going through. The small arms survey that you cite will not provide references for 185 of the 209 countries that they claim to have data for. Karp, the person that you interviewed there, is the person who puts the small arms survey together. For 5 years, I've asked him to go and provide the data, but he won't do that. So these numbers that you have, about 46% of guns in the world that are owned privately are owned in the United States, those are not accurate. The stuff that we've been going through shows that the small arms survey numbers are off by factors of 10. You should go and look at their report. If you go through their footnotes, they only provide sources for 25 of the 209 countries that they claim to have data for. And I've been asking for years, and they refuse constantly to go and provide their sources. And I've gone through, if you go, many countries require licensing and registration of guns. And we've collected that data. And if you look at that, they're off by huge magnitudes in many countries.
What do you mean by they're off by huge magnitudes?
They're off by factors of 10 in terms of the percentage of the population that owns guns.
Okay. But I mean, all right, the numbers can be read in different ways, but
I'm just saying they won't release their data sources.
Okay. All right, but a majority of the adults in the United States, including gun owners, support common sense gun control laws such as background checks, bans on assault weapons, and on bans on specifically high capacity magazines. Would you agree on that?
Look, everybody wants to stop dangerous people from getting guns. What you're missing is exactly kind of the details that are there. So, for example, the background check system that people push as being common sense, they'll say, well, there have been 3.8 million prohibited people that have been stopped because of background checks, because we do have background checks. What they fail to note is that 99% of those stops were mistakes. The background check system that we have, that gun control advocates refuse to fix, look at things like roughly phonetically similar names and similar birthdays. Virtually everybody who gets stopped is a law-abiding citizen who simply has a name and birthday similar to somebody that they want to stop. Yeah, I'll give you an example. In Washington, D.C., it costs $125 to do the background check to privately transfer a gun. If you and I lived in D.C. and I'm going to give you 4 guns, you think one person giving one other person 4 guns, there should just be one background check, right? Mm-hmm. But no, the law requires that you have to have a separate background check on each gun. So it would cost $500 for me to go and transfer the guns to you.
Okay.
You look at those types of rules, and they're purposely designed to make it as costly as possible for law-abiding people. Look, there's no reason why 99% of the background checks should be stopping law-abiding citizens. And unfortunately, gun control advocates refuse to fix. It's a simple fix. All you have to do is have the federal government meet the same standards for doing background checks that private companies meet. If private companies that do background checks on employees had an error rate that was 100, the error rate that the federal government has, they'd be sued out of business.
Yeah.
And it's not just, I'll give you one example of what Biden's pushing right now as far as reasonable gun control laws go. What he wants to do is have this zero tolerance policy on gun dealers, saying that if they make any mistakes in paperwork, they will lose their licenses and go out of business. He says they may be selling guns out of the back of their store to criminals. Nobody wants licensed dealers to sell guns to criminals, but that's not what's being talked about. If you go back over the last 15 years of paperwork and you are looking for any paperwork mistake, no matter how trivial, no matter how consequential, to put them out of business, that's okay. All they're trying to do is make it costly and difficult for law-abiding citizens to get guns.
That's a point that you made. All right, John, I wish we had more time. I know it's a very difficult subject to fit into 5-6 minutes, but I do appreciate hearing your analysis and point. Thank you.